Yeah, so Shalom Aleichem, good evening, and we're here with the weekly story as part of the weekly class that we have in the Dvar Malchus of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach. And this week is a very special week. We see that it's the month of Shevat, Shenishma B'Sorot Tovot. The acronym of Shevat was that we should hear good news. And in addition to this, we have, Baruch Hashem, much good news. And we see that we have birthdays this week. Co-sponsoring the shir this evening is the Herman family, Eliezer and Koti, in honor of Eliezer's birthday, the 7th of Shvat tomorrow night. And we have also another participant that has a birthday on the 8th of Shvat, Binyamin Alexander. And Bezrat Hashem, we should only have great and wonderful celebrations. We're coming from very, very special days. The 4th of Shvat, which was the Hilula, the 4th of Shvat, the Hilula of the Baba Sali, Rabbi Yisroal, Abuchatzerah, and the 2nd of Shvat, which was the Hilula of Rav Zushe of Anapoli. And the Rosh Chodesh, the 1st of Shvat, we see is a very special day. The Rebbe always stresses the beginning of Shvat, which is the day that Moshe Rabbeinu went and was good enough, ho'il. He was good enough to, in other words, as far as the attribute of chesed, of kindness is concerned, to go and to translate the entire Torah into 70 languages, so that the 70 nations of the world will be able to go and to have their understanding of the Torah in regard to the 7 Noahide laws that they are responsible and they have the obligation to observe. When we're talking about these qualities, so a person that's born in the month of Shvat, this is my neck of the woods. My line is to go and to give the personal Kabbalistic codes, which includes the month of the year that the person was born. So when we're talking about Shvat, so this is someone that has a very optimistic personality, because that's, like we said, the acronym of Shvat, Shenishma B'Sorot Tovot, a person that is looking forward to good news. This isn't the optimist. Not only that, but this is a person that also is looking forward to relay good news to others. So this also expresses the concept of optimism and chesed and kindness. And the second thing we see when we're talking about the month of Shvat, it's the 11th. When we're talking about the months of the year, so we have Shvat and Adar. Shvat is the last one before the last month of the year, and Adar is the last month when we're counting the months. But Shvat has the energy of going and giving the good news, and immediately following Shvat, we have the good news. We have the month of Adar. We have the month that is considered the birthday of every single Jew, together with the birthday of Moshe Rabbeinu and the great miracle of Adar, the great miracle of Purim. Going back to the first point that we mentioned, that Moshe Rabbeinu translated the entire Torah on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, this also shows a reflection in the individual's personality and the soul powers of the individual. Since this was so by Moshe Rabbeinu, the very first time that it happened on Rosh Chodesh Shvat, the dissemination of concepts of Torah, teaching Torah, making Torah available, going and making sure that there are that we participate in Torah classes, and going and making Torah classes available for others is part and parcel of a person that is born in the month of Shvat. Since we mentioned the two great tzaddikim, one from the Sfaradim, one from the Ashkenazim, so we'll give over two stories. Yeah, we don't discriminate between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim over here. We have Achdus, wonderful unity. But even before we start the two miracle stories that we're going to tell, there was an incredible miracle that happened in the last 24 hours. Uh, it was something that we only found out today in regard to a a terrible attack, missile attack that was planned for the day of the Baba Sali on Netivot, that was supposed to be chas v'sholem carried out, and the security forces and the army were able to go into foil the plan of the terrorists, the Mechablim Yamach Shmam Zichram, and they were planning to shoot something like 40 missiles that they found, 40 or 60 missiles that they found that were all ready to be shot, and everything was everything was caught at the very last minute. And Baruch Hashem, obviously we see it's also in the schus of the tzaddik and the day of the tzaddik of the Baba Sali. One of the most recent stories that was told to me about the Baba Sali, Rabbi Yisroal Abuchatzerah, there's some stories that are more well known, some stories that aren't that well known. And this was a story that took place with his shamish, with the shamish of the Baba Sali, Rabbi Al-Fasi, his name was. And there was a Malava Malka that was set up, and it was only the Baba Sali and his Meshamish and his and the person that was serving him, that was Rabbi Al-Fasi. And they sat down. They had they ate the meal, and at the end of the meal, all of a sudden, the Baba Sali turns to Rabbi Al-Fasi and he says, "Please get a gavia, get a goblet, a kiddush cup, and wine, so that we can make a zimun, we can bench with 10 people." Rabbi Al-Fasi looks at the Baba Sali and he's a little choked up. He doesn't understand. He says, "But Kvodo, Your Honor, we don't even have 3 people to make a small zimun. How can we go and make a zimun for 10 people?" So the Baba Sali waves with his hand and he says, what is this? What is this to you? And he starts showing him. He starts pointing around the table. He says, "Here, I'll show you. Here we have the 7 ro'im, the 7 shepherds. In other words, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and David. Yeah, that's 7. And then he said, and the grandfather, the Abir Yaakov, Rabbi Yaakov Abuchatzerah, is sitting together with them, and we have you and I. So altogether we have 10. So I don't understand your problem." So he goes red in the face and he says, but I don't see them. So the Baba Sali looks at him and he says, "The fact that you don't see them, that's a chisaron, that is lacking in your eyes. But the fact that they're here, that's a fact also. And so since they're here and we have 10, so go and get the wine, and we'll make a zimun on 10 people." And that's exactly what he did. He went and he got the wine, and he made the zimun for the end of the Suda, for the Birkat Hamazon, with Shem and Malchus, Elokeinu. And like we said, this is just a drop in the ocean of the miracles that the Baba Sali performed during the lifetime that we were able to see him, and all the miracles that he is still performing till this day. People go and they pray in Netivot by the Baba Sali every year, and many times in the middle of the year, people go and they cry by the Baba Sali for miracles, for help, and Baruch Hashem, we see unbelievable miracle stories. Let's get back to the first and the base Shevat, the second of Shevat, and a story with Rav Zushe of Anapoli. It's a well-known thing that Rav Zushe and his brother Elimelech of Lezhansk, one of the main things that they would do is they would go and they would bring people to do tshuva. But how would they do it? There were magidim in those days, magidim that would go and they would speak harsh, fire and brimstone language, and really chisel down the individual. And at that point, when the person was totally broken, so they felt, wow, well, I can't take this any longer. I have to do tshuva. But they wouldn't do it. Obviously, they were the students of the Maggid, of the Maggid of Mezrich, who was the student of the Baal Shem Tov. They would do it in a very subtle manner and in a very different manner. They would go and they would sit down, for instance, in the pundak, in the inn, the tavern of someone, and they would sit in the corner and they would literally cry and express their melancholy, and then they would repeat different types of conduct and behavior that they said they went and did. This action that was not correct, and then this other action that was not correct, and this thing that I should have done and I didn't do. And as he was crying and saying this out loud, so the owner of the tavern would overhear him, and he would understand, and he heard all the sins that he actually that he actually committed, all the things that he was missing and not doing in his life. And the person would be standing with, for instance, with his Rebbitzin, with his wife, and the wife would look at him and say, "Wow, look at this, these are very similar things to what I know that you go through as well." And this would the behavior of the crying and the melancholy how it upsetted the tzaddik Rav Zushe of Anapoli would arouse the tshuva by the other person as well. One of the stories is with a chassid of Rav Zushe of Anapoli, that he would come on a regular basis to Rav Zushe for Tishrei, for the holidays, and every year he would ask Rav Zushe for a bracha for parnasa, for livelihood. And every year he would ask, and every year he didn't get. He would return home, and his wife would be, really thunderstricken with the fact that, listen, you go every year, and we don't have what to live on. We have, Baruch Hashem, a house full of children. We have to feed the mouths. And what are you doing? You're going to the great tzaddik that performs miracles, and you don't ask a blessing for our family. So he says, listen, it wasn't possible. It didn't go. I asked, but the tzaddik was silent. And the next year, so this chassid's wife told him, listen, you're going now. You're going to be by the tzaddik. You're going to be there for the holidays, for Tishrei. Ask him for parnasa. Ask him for the family's livelihood. And I warn you, if you don't get a bracha for our family's livelihood, so you have nothing to come back home for. Whoa, this was a very serious predicament that he found himself in, and he went to Rav Zushe, and he told Rav Zushe, what am I supposed to do? I have to get a bracha for parnasa, because if I don't, my wife won't allow me back home. Rav Zushe listened, and he was very attentive to the tears of the chassid and the request of the chassid. And Rav Zushe says, "Don't worry. Next year you'll have a ben zachar. You'll have a baby boy. You'll be hugging a baby boy." The chassid held his head and he didn't know what to do, because he's asking for what? He's asking for a blessing for parnasa, for livelihood. And the chassid and Rav Zushe tells him not to worry. He's going to have a baby boy. Now he's going to have a baby boy. He's going to need even more livelihood to feed another child, another mouth. Let alone the fact that how is he going to go back to his wife and tell his wife that he didn't get the blessing? He only got, but the Rav Zushe told him not to worry. So he went back home and he told his wife the story. And his wife was very upset, very angry, to say the least. But she said, "Well, at least we have a blessing for a baby boy. How we're going to feed him? That's already that's another matter." But she calmed down, and then the child was born, and on the 8th day they were preparing for the bris. They were preparing for the circumcision of the child, And the father looks around the house and he sees he only has like a few potatoes that he can serve for the Su'udah. You're supposed to make a Su'udah, a festive meal in honor of the Bris Milah. And he doesn't know what to do. So he looks around, turns things upside down in the house, and he finally finds one or two coins. He goes with these coins to the market, to the shuk, and he buys a few more potatoes with whatever he had, and he has like a small bag of potatoes in his hand, and he's walking back. It was a snowy, furious, stormy day, and he's walking in the snowstorm. And as he's walking step by step, slowly, all of a sudden from the opposite direction comes someone, and this person sees Rav Zushe, and he says, "Hey, listen, what do you have in your hand?" He says, I have a bag of potatoes." He says, "That's exactly what I need. I need potatoes, and I don't want to go and walk all the way to the marketplace. So maybe you'll do me a favor. I'll buy your sack of potatoes, and you'll buy the potatoes at the market again." Rav Zusha says, "What do you mean?" And so he says, "Well, listen." And this person took out a little satchel of money. It was it was like a small fortune for the chassid. And he says, "Here, take the money. This is what it's worth for me. Give me the potatoes." The chassid saw the money and he said, "You sure?" He says, "Of course I'm sure. Give me the potatoes already." Okay, so he gave them the potatoes, and this same happening occurred and repeated itself again and again and again, not with the same person. There was another person and another person. Each time, the next person took whatever the chassid was able to gather together, and it was already like a very nice meal. But the next person went and said, I want to buy it," and he brought it, and he gave him the amount plus profit. And then all of a sudden he said, "That's it. Okay, now he had all the food for the Suda plus a very fair sum to live off of," and he went home in order to go and to prepare the food for the bris milah. And that was the beginning of the success of this individual's parnasa, this individual's livelihood. That year, he became a very, very rich gvir, a very wealthy individual. And at the end of the year comes Tishrei. He went to the Rebbe. He went to Rav Zushe of Anapoli. Goes to Rav Zushe, and he gets into Yechidus, a personal audience, and he starts telling Rav Zushe, "I don't know how to thank you. The blessing for Parnasa, it was incredible. We become within 1 year, we become very wealthy, Baruch Hashem." And he gave Rav Zushe also a very nice a charitable sum. And Rav Zushe says, "What are you thanking me?" He said, "But you gave me the blessing." He says, "No, don't you recall? I gave you the blessing for a baby boy, for Ben Zachar." He says, "Yeah, but you somehow it was included, right? He said, "No, I couldn't give you a blessing for livelihood." The chassid looks at him and says, "What? You couldn't give me? So could you please explain what happened over here?" He says, "Listen, every year you come to me, and every year you ask me for a blessing for parnasa. Every year I see in Shamayim that there's a decree that you can have parnasa. Your parnasa pipe is stopped up, nothing doing." So he says, "Okay, so then I looked in heaven, I saw what could I do, because I saw that your situation was getting more and more difficult. So I looked and I saw that there is a neshama up in heaven that is meant to live his life here in this world in a very wealthy environment, in a very rich manner. So that's exactly what I did. I blessed you with a blessing for a baby boy, and the neshama of this person that was decreed upon to live in wealth and in riches came down, and this is the baby boy that you had. And all the wealth and all the livelihood that you made this year wasn't in my merit of my bracha. It's in the merit of the baby boy that you had. So you have to thank the baby boy that you had. And me, well, I'm just an innocent bystander. But this is something that we have to remember. The moral of the story is that every single person has their blessings. Everyone has blessings in every single field of life. But sometimes we just have to change one small thing in one faculty of life, and this is going to open up the pipelines for the blessings and the other things that we are asking for, the other things that we feel that we need, the other things that we know that we need. And the main thing is, and this is what the Rebbe says in regard to every single happening, every single experience that we go through in life right now, in actuality, that everything is connected to one and major blessing. The major blessing of the coming of Mashiach, the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach. And this is what the Rebbe tells us, that everything has to be connected with Moshiach. Kol yemei chayecha lehovili moisa Moshiach. All the days of our life, and this is talking about, especially in honor of birthdays, every single moment of the day, of every single day of our life, has to be designated, and we have to have the awareness that this is in order. Hashem is giving us our life, our existence, in order to go and to do and one more action, one more utterance of speech, one more good thought about another Jew, about ourselves even, in order to go and to tip the scales and bring the revelation of the Rebbe Shlita Melech Ha'Moshiach. No, it should be Teichef Miyad Mamish, immediately now. Yechi Adonenu Morenu V'Rabbeinu HaMelech Ha'Moshiach Chai V'Kayam Le'olam Voed. Amen.